I found a letter that was not meant for me. It lay on the floor of the old apartment I had just rented. The envelope was yellowed with age, edges frayed and fragile. The ink on the name was smudged, but the handwriting was elegant, precise, almost deliberate. I picked it up, feeling the weight of secrecy pressing into my hands. The apartment smelled of dust and stale sunlight. I could hear the faint hum of the city outside, distant and muted. I hesitated before opening it, my curiosity clawing at my reason. The seal broke with a quiet snap. Inside, the letter was folded carefully, almost reverently. The words were written in a careful, deliberate script. At first, it seemed like a simple note, a message between two people. But as I read, my stomach twisted. The words described me, every habit, every fear, every private thought I had never spoken aloud. The letter knew things it could not have known. I looked around the empty apartment, my skin prickling. The air felt thick, charged with something unseen. I heard a creak from the hallway. I froze. The letter trembled slightly in my hands. I told myself it was only the building settling. But the words continued to unspool, revealing details that were impossible to know. They described events from my past, moments I had hidden even from my closest friends. My heart raced. I felt a cold pressure at the back of my neck, like a shadow leaning in. The handwriting shifted tone, darker now, urgent, almost threatening. It spoke of a meeting, a place, and a time. And a warning. Do not go. The letter had not been meant for me. Yet it called me forward. I looked through the apartment window. The street below was empty, quiet, almost too still. I felt exposed, as if someone, or something, was watching from the shadows. My hands shook as I folded the letter back into its envelope. The edges seemed sharper, like they had been cut with intent. I debated burning it. I considered leaving it and walking away forever. But curiosity overpowered reason. The letter had a name at the bottom, a signature I did not recognize. It invited me. It demanded I follow. I left the apartment, the letter tucked into my coat pocket. The air outside was cold, crisp, carrying the scent of rain from earlier. The streets were narrow, winding, almost unfamiliar, even though I had walked them countless times. The city felt different, as if a layer of reality had lifted. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting someone to be there. But no one was. Only shadows clung to the edges of buildings. The letter guided me through streets I had never noticed. It whispered secrets in my mind, urging me to go further. The further I went, the heavier the weight of inevitability grew. I turned into an alley, dark and narrow. A single flickering streetlight illuminated the walls. I saw writing on the bricks, faint and almost invisible. It was my name. I stopped. My pulse thundered in my ears. The letter pressed against my chest, almost alive, almost insistent. I opened it again. The next words were no longer just observations. They were instructions. They told me exactly what to do, where to step, how to move. Every instruction matched the alley perfectly, as if the letter knew the space better than I did. I followed each step, heart hammering. The shadows seemed to reach for me. The walls narrowed. I felt a presence behind me. A whisper, soft, almost inaudible. It said my name. I spun around. Nothing. The alley stretched on, longer than it should have been. The streetlight flickered again, then went out entirely. Darkness swallowed me. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ragged. The letter was warm in my pocket, pulsing almost like a heartbeat. I unfolded it one final time. The words had changed. They were no longer written. They were alive, writhing on the page, demanding, summoning. I felt a tug inside my chest, pulling me toward the end of the alley. I hesitated. A cold wind circled me. I knew that whatever awaited at the end was not meant for me. Yet the letter would not let me turn back. It was guiding me, shaping me, bending me toward something I was not ready to face. The shadows moved closer, and the alley seemed to stretch endlessly. I realized I might not return. I realized I had found something that would change everything. Something meant for someone else. But it had chosen me. I took a step forward, the shadows swallowing my feet. The letter pulsed in my pocket, insistent, alive. Every instinct screamed to turn back, yet I could not. The alley seemed to grow longer, twisting in ways that defied logic. Walls stretched and leaned, narrowing and expanding at random, trapping me in a corridor of darkness. The faint sound of water dripping echoed somewhere ahead, each drop louder than the last. I could feel the moisture in the air clinging to my skin. The alley smelled of damp stone and decay. I could hear faint scuttling in the corners of my vision, but whenever I turned, there was nothing. The letter whispered again, now in my own voice, mimicking my thoughts. It told me to keep moving, to reach the end, to uncover what was waiting. I felt my pulse hammer in my temples, each beat syncing with the invisible rhythm of the letter. A chill ran through my spine as the alley widened slightly. I saw something in the shadows, movement, subtle but deliberate. It was human, yet wrong. The figure flickered at the edge of my vision. Every time I looked directly, it vanished. I could feel it watching, assessing, waiting. The air grew colder. My breath formed misty clouds that lingered longer than they should have. I realized that with every step I took, the alley seemed to shift beneath me. Stones rearranged themselves silently, forming shapes and symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. The letter burned in my pocket. I wanted to drop it, to run blindly, but I could not. It had become part of me. I stumbled over a broken piece of pavement, landing hard on my hands. Pain shot up my arms, but I ignored it. The figure appeared again, closer this time. I could feel its presence pressing against my chest, heavy and suffocating. I forced myself to my feet, gripping the letter. The whispers became voices I recognized, people from my life, their tones twisted into mockery. They told me I had been chosen. They told me there was no escape. I turned a corner, and the alley ended abruptly at a door, ancient and warped. The wood groaned as if alive. I could feel a vibration in the air, resonating through my bones. The letter demanded I open it. I hesitated, heart hammering, but curiosity, terror, and inevitability combined to push me forward. My hand trembled as I touched the doorknob. It was ice cold. I twisted it slowly, the hinges creaking like a scream. The door opened to a small room, dimly lit by a single swinging bulb. Shadows pooled in the corners, and in the center stood a desk. On it, another letter, identical to the one I held, but this one was freshly inked, wet and glistening. I could see my name on it, written in the same elegant script. The room smelled of ink and iron. A whisper curled around my ear, coaxing me. I took a step closer. The shadows moved with me, forming shapes, writhing as though alive. I reached for the letter. The moment my fingers brushed the paper, the room shifted violently. The walls twisted, and I felt a pressure crushing me from all sides. The letter screamed in my mind, a high-pitched tearing sound. I tried to pull my hand back. The shadows wrapped around my wrist, tightening. I could feel their coldness creeping into my veins. The letter guided my fingers across the page. It spelled words I could not read aloud. Words older than memory. The whispers became a chorus, chanting in a language I understood without comprehension. I felt my thoughts slipping away, my memories unraveling like thread. The room pulsed, breathing with an invisible life. I realized I was not holding the letter anymore. It held me. The shadows converged at the corners, forming a shape, a figure cloaked in darkness. Its face was a void. Its hands were long and thin, grasping toward me. I tried to scream, to run, to resist. But my body would not obey. The figure leaned closer. I felt a cold wind that carried the scent of earth and decay. It whispered my deepest fears, the secrets I had buried, every moment of vulnerability. I wanted to collapse. I wanted to vanish. The letter pulsed violently in my pocket, dragging me forward, bending my will. The figure opened its mouth, and soundless words echoed inside my mind. I saw visions, lives I might have led, paths I could have taken, and choices I could never undo. They twisted, dark and grotesque, showing me the inevitability of fate. I understood then that the letter had not been meant for me. It had been meant for everyone. It was a messenger of inevitability. And now it had found me. The shadows surged forward, pulling me toward the desk. I fell to my knees, gripping the letter like a lifeline. The figure reached for me. Cold, empty, unyielding. I felt my mind splintering. Everything I knew, everything I believed, dissolved into a storm of darkness and whispers. The letter burned through my consciousness, forcing me to see what was hidden. I saw myself, not as I was, but as I would be, a part of the endless chain of people drawn to it, consumed by it, transformed by it. The shadows merged with the figure. The room itself became alive, breathing and pulsing around me. And then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. Silence. I was alone. The letter lay on the desk. Blank. The shadows were gone. The room was empty. I stumbled backward, gasping for air. The alley outside was quiet, normal. The city noises were back, distant and muted. Yet I knew it had not ended. The letter had chosen me. And somewhere, in the shadows, it waited for the next step. I stared at the blank letter on the desk, my hands trembling. The shadows were gone, yet the weight of their presence lingered in the room. I felt hollow, as if a part of me had been left behind. The air smelled faintly of ink and dust, ordinary yet impossible to ignore. I stepped back, my legs weak, my mind racing with questions that had no answers. The alley outside seemed quiet, almost too quiet. The city carried on, unaware of the forces that hid in its cracks and corners. I realized the letter had shown me more than I was ready to see. It had revealed my fears, my secrets, and the fragile nature of control. I wanted to throw it away, burn it, erase every trace of its existence. Yet I knew it was no longer just paper. It was a presence, a reminder, a shadow of inevitability that would follow me. I left the room carefully, clutching the envelope loosely in my hand. The streets seemed familiar, yet subtly different, as if the city itself had shifted in my absence. I walked with deliberate steps, keeping my senses sharp, scanning the alleys and corners. No one followed. No whisper called my name. The letter had chosen me, but it had relented for now. I returned to my apartment, closing the door behind me with a sense of finality. I placed the letter on the desk, not touching it again. I understood then that some things are not meant to be understood fully. Some secrets are not ours to possess. I could not unsee what I had seen. I could not forget the way the shadows had moved, or the figure had reached for me. And yet, life went on. The sun rose, illuminating the ordinary world outside my window. Birds sang. People moved through the streets without awareness of the hidden currents beneath their feet. I sat down, heart still racing, and breathed slowly. The letter lay on the desk, blank and silent, yet I could feel it pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat I could not hear. I knew it would not bother me again today. But I also knew it would never truly leave me. It had chosen me once, and it would choose again when the time was right. And I had learned the most important lesson: some messages are never meant for anyone, yet they find their way into the lives of those who stumble across them. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine normality. It was impossible. The letter had opened a door I could not close. And I understood, with a quiet, sinking certainty, that curiosity has a price. A price I had already paid. I turned away from the desk. I would live, but I would carry the memory. And the letter would wait. Always waiting. For the next person who was not meant to read it.